So today I am making 3 different keto brownies, and what I did is I'm comparing all 3 of them. It's my first time making 2 of them, which would be the second and the third one. I usually make the first one and I usually am pretty happy with that one, but this time I did want to try to see if there was some better versions of it. And here I do have my keto hot chocolate coffee, and maybe I'll show you guys how to make this in the very near future. So this first brownie that we're making is one that I always usually make. We're gonna start off by baking this at 350 degrees, and that's gonna be for 40 minutes. So you're gonna be adding the 6 large eggs, getting some melted butter, and mixing that with the 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And then you are going to be adding 4 ounces of original cream cheese and mix those all together. And then we are going to be adding our dry ingredients, which will be the 4.5 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder, and then a half a teaspoon of baking powder. You can put 5 tablespoons, but I put 6 tablespoons of sweetener, and then 1/4 teaspoon of the Himalayan pink salt. After all of the dry ingredients are mixed together, we are going to be slowly adding the eggs into the dry. And you could do it either way, but I just did it this way. So I just slowly added it in a little bit and just slowly stirring it together. For this recipe, I did use an 8x8 pan, and so you definitely want to either pour butter all over the edges of the pan, or you can just spray it like I did. After being refrigerated, these brownies are still pretty much the same. They do kind of densen up and harden up a little bit, but they're not very different from the way that they come out from the oven. And since I didn't really mix it up with like a beater or anything, and I do it by hand, the cream cheese is kind of what those little white spots are at the top, just so that you know that I did it by hand. So for the first brownie, this is my go-to brownie. So because of that, I really like the consistency it has. It has like a very dense texture. The only thing is that it's not really like fudgy, but it's not really like cakey either. It holds together really well. It tastes pretty good, but it's a very subtle brownie taste. As you can see right off the bat, it kind of has that moisture, eggy look to it, but it definitely is not very wet or anything. So it's just a pretty good brownie consistency, and you can see it's almost like a sponge in a way, just because of the way that it looks. So this next one is the lakanto brownie mix, and this one I just bought off of eBay, and I'll try and put that in the description below. This was a very quick and easy to make brownie mix, and we are baking it at 325 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes. On the back of the bag, it actually didn't say how much of the brownie mix, so I wasn't sure if I was supposed to use the whole bag or just half of it. So I just ended up starting with half of the brownie mix. So I don't know if that's why they end up coming out kind of flat at the end, but you can always try it on your own if you want to double it. But I just did a cup of the brownie mix, 1/2 cup of the coconut oil, 2 large eggs, and then 1 teaspoon of water, which super easy, super simple, fast mix, bake ingredients. But of course you do want to make sure that your coconut oil is melted so it's easy to mix together, and then just add your wet ingredients to your brownie mix, which is the dry ingredients, of course. And I really like how thick this consistency came out, and I usually do really like the flavor of the lakanto sweetener, but in this one I actually didn't really like it very much. I could actually taste an aftertaste after making these, and I don't know if it was maybe because I got the bag off of Amazon and maybe it was old, but these ended up also coming out pretty hard, as you can see on the sides. Maybe I overbaked it as well. I'm not really sure because the directions weren't very clear on the bag. I really love the consistency that they came out to, even though they came out pretty thin and kind of gotten hard on the edges. If they didn't have that aftertaste, I think these would be like almost the perfect low carb brownies. They were also very low calorie since I used only a cup of the brownie mix, which was awesome. Now to compare the first and the second brownie together. The second one tasted more like a brownie than the first one, but it definitely had that aftertaste, which is really like kind of weird. And when you compare only like the first one and the second one, you actually kind of just want to mix them together if that's possible, just to make like a perfect brownie. But if you only compare those two, I would pick the first one. And sorry about the wind. On some of these recordings, I was actually outside, so I didn't realize it was catching the wind. But to start off the third brownie, we are going to be baking it at for 50 to 55 minutes. So of course you're going to be mixing all the dry ingredients together and then getting all the wet ones together. But for this one, you do want to probably use a machine mixer. Of course, I don't have one, so you can see how it came out at the end, and it probably didn't come out like as fluffy as they could be. So it did take me a couple of times to try and mix it together to make it as fluffy as it possibly could be. But I took a little break in between and decided to melt the butter and the bar of chocolate together in the microwave. And you want to do these in about 20-second increments, so that the butter and the chocolate doesn't end up burning, and you can just slowly melt them together. And you can see that this one was still hard, so then after I did it again and it came out nice and perfect. So then I tried to fluff these eggs a little bit more afterwards, and then you're gonna slowly add the chocolate in, and what you want to do is fold the eggs over, and you actually kind of want to do it the other way, like put the eggs into the chocolate, but I did it this way because my other bowl was too small. So then you just slowly fold them over each other in 1/3 sections, and then you're going to be adding the dry cocoa mix into the egg and the microwaved chocolate. So this one is actually a little bit less, and you'll see that the mixture is actually like more drier, but it's kind of funny because it actually comes out more oily in the end, but it's still kind of dry, and that's probably because of the coconut flour. And since it is a little bit less of the mixture, we're going to be using a bread loaf pan instead of a regular 8x8 inch brownie type pan like the first two that we did. So these came out really crumbly and nice and soft and warm, fresh out of the oven, but right after you refrigerate it, it actually becomes a lot like harder and more thicker. So they actually kind of almost end up being in between like the first and second brownie. After being refrigerated, it becomes a little bit like harder. But you can see how oily these are right now when they first are freshly baked. And so I didn't like how oily they were, but that is due to all the butter. However, after you refrigerate it, it's not really like that anymore. But it is great for, of course, the keto diet because you want your foods to be more on the fattier side. However, the only problem I didn't like about this brownie was that it was kind of more crumbly, so it ends up falling apart very easily fresh out of the oven. But it tastes the best compared to the first and the second brownies. See, so I'm squishing them here, and you can kind of see the difference. The first two have been refrigerated already, and the last one hasn't yet. but whenever it is, like I said, it does get more dense like the other ones. And you can see that they're all very different in color. And so the first one, like I said, is very subtle brownie taste. Second one has a good brownie taste, but with a little bit of an aftertaste of the sweetener. And then the last one, it actually has more of the dark chocolate taste. And I think that just depends, I guess. Maybe if you want more of a sweeter taste, you should probably try not using a dark chocolate or a less percentage of chocolate in your chocolate bar when making the recipe. For the third brownie, I tried the Keto Connect brownie, and it was my first time making it. I felt like it was a little bit more tedious to make. It had more ingredients. Like, yeah, you definitely have to take a little bit more time to do it, but it actually came out really great. The only problem was that it came out kind of almost cakey, so it was like fudgy but also kind of cakey, and so it's kind of like a weird in between, I guess. And I say it was the best one out of those three because, first of all, I like that, you know, it has like a really brownie, like actual brownie flavor to it. It's a lot like a nicer texture as well, I think. The only thing that I didn't like about it was that it had, I guess, a lot of the dark chocolate taste, which I actually do become accustomed to the dark chocolate taste, but because there's just a lot of chocolate in it, and I don't like things that have a lot of chocolate in it, so it was kind of made it easy to get tired of eating the brownie, which in some ways is good because then you won't overconsume all the brownies, especially because that one is more high calorie, and then the second one is actually the lowest calorie. So if you put them in order, it's going to be the Keto Connect, high calorie, and then the first brownie that I made, and then the lakanto mix. But if you're not looking at the calories, I really enjoyed the last one. If you are kind of one of the people that tend to overconsume things that taste really good or sweet, the lakanto one is very easy to eat quickly. It's because it's kind of a lot more thinner, so you'll eat more of them. It's lower calorie, and then on top of that, it has a good brownie flavor to it. The first one, you can overconsume that one as well if you haven't had brownies in a while, I guess, but that texture is pretty good as well. It's a lot more thicker, but because it's more calorie dense, it's a little bit harder to consume too much. But of course, like I said, that's only a problem if you tend to overconsume sweet things. With the Keto Connect one, you won't really have as much of a problem if you get tired of the too much chocolate in there. So because that one is calorie dense, it's actually kind of helpful that you do get tired of it, but it just tastes really great too. So of course there's a possibility you can still overconsume this. The problem is that it just, I guess, depends on what you like, but for me, I like that it kind of stops me from eating too much. And so that's going to conclude this video, and I hope you guys really enjoyed it. It took some time to make these 3 brownies, and you know, kind of spread them out so that I don't like make too much all at once, but it was really fun to make this video. I love baking, so it was quite enjoyable for me as well, and I wanted to bring this to you for Christmas so that you guys can kind of see maybe which brownie is the best brownie to make for Christmas or for anytime soon for the cold, you know, for the winter. So please like and subscribe if you guys really enjoyed this video and want me to make more videos like this. I really appreciate it if you guys do like the video, and comment down below if you guys got to try them, see which one you like the best, and thanks for watching.